recording.
Just waiting for a break. She had a lot on her mind.
Jim, look at that beard.
Yeah.
You gonna play Santa Claus this winter?
I don't know. It just happens sometimes. I hit the sides though. Get those clippers out. Yeah.
Got the goatee going, huh?
Oh, how fun.
I have nowhere to go. No people to see. So I may just cut off the sides here and just.
Yeah.
2011, I cut it all off. I had
Oh,
a
really?
mohawk for a week.
Why not? Have fun with it.
Well, that's exactly it. Why not?
Why don't you color it? I mean, maybe color it purple.
Well, why not? Because I don't like purple hair.
Are you in the basement?
I'll do other
today?
things. I will cut it off before I go purple.
Yeah. Did they put you in the basement today? Are you in trouble?
I am in the basement today. It's very cool down here. This
Yeah.
is my love. I have a love. See that doorway behind me? That's a
Yeah.
brand new bathroom.
Ooh, that's the one
Yeah.
you put in, huh?
That's right.
That is exciting.
I enjoy it down here. What I always wanted was an unfinished basement. The kids can ride skateboards. We hit tennis balls off the walls. I got a swing. I got a ninja course. We got ping pong and pop a shot. Anything you want to do down here. Nothing to break. There's lots of stuff to break, but none of it matters.
Next party is at your house. Party in the basement.
That's right.
We'll bring our own helmets.
Yeah, it can be dangerous.
Hello, Mina.
Hi. Hi, Lina. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Look, we've got everybody's joining us. Let me get my notes out. Woohoo! So Mina, did you decide to sell your house and move, or what did you decide to do?
Yeah, it has been for sale for about 4 or 5 weeks, and the other house is being built, but it all depends on selling this house. Whatever happens is good, because I love this house. This house has been so good to me.
Yeah.
And if I stay and it doesn't sell, I'm okay. And if I sell this house and I move to the other one, it's gonna be beautiful too. So I'm really grateful for this house, and I'm really grateful for having the opportunity to move to a new house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yes,
That's
it
awesome.
is.
I love that. I love that you've got all those opportunities.
Where's the
Yeah.
new house, Mina?
Where is what?
Where's the new house?
The new house is about 0.7 of a mile to downtown Marietta.
Oh, sweet.
And it's in a pocket area where you have condos, but these are separate houses. And right in front of this house, there is a little park, so it has great view. And I love my house. I'm in a golf course, and it has a great view, but it's really big for the two of us, you know. For
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this house is 32 years old. And, you know, as we are growing old, it requires a lot of maintenance. So the new house will be a perfect opportunity. But I love this house too. It's been a fabulous home for my family, myself, Rusty, my son, my mother. It hosted my family, you know. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally. Let's see. Kat is saying she can't get in. Let's see. What's the ID number? Where do I find the ID number?
The ID in your message?
Like the
Let me
link.
check.
Because let's see, ID number is that. I think that's something different. Let's see, Kathy, do you know if an ID number is something different than the link number?
I
The ID number is usually like a nine-digit number.
I didn't need an
It's
ID.
found it's found within the link.
Okay, let me.
Yeah, if
Let me
they
go to-
click in the link, it's automatic.
My phone is dead. I can't pull up the text thing.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it.
Hey, I can read it off. It's.
Oh, hold on.
You got-
Hold on
I
a
can
second.
text it. Okay.
Give me one quick second. Let me tell her to link through the Facebook group. Let me also find it here. It'd be so much easier if they just put it right here, and then I could see it. Okay.
I think you have a permanent just one number for your meetings all the time.
Yeah. In this group, I
Your
have
account probably.
yeah. In this group, I have it for the same number always. So welcome. See, I see we've got. Thanks, Stacy. I sent her the link. So we've got. Hey, Dondra, and who's on iPhone 5? Not sure who that is. If that's who that might be.
Text today, or did my phone is acting weird? Did you send one?
Yeah, I sent a text today. I did. And I also put it in the Facebook group. So I always do text and Facebook group.
I know, I didn't get the text.
It's in the text group.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I sent that this morning. But I'm glad you found it. And oh, good, Kat. Did you not get the text, Kat, either?
I think I got a text and I tried, but it didn't work. So anyway, I got on. I think I got the text earlier though. Yeah.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure if anybody's not getting my text, but I also put it in the Facebook group. And let's see, who's on iPhone 5? If you could identify yourself so we know who you are.
Could be me.
I thought it was Kat. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I've got
In the past, it has been Kat. Hi there.
All right. Well, I'm so glad you guys are here. So give me a little update. How are you guys doing? Who wants to share just the last couple of weeks? Well, we did do the group coaching call last weekend. So we did have that, not this past weekend, but the one before. So it's not like we haven't seen each other in 2 weeks, but who wants to share? How are you doing? How's Course in Miracles? How are you applying Course in Miracles in your life, especially in light of all that's happening in the world?
I'll go first.
Yes, Mina, thank you.
Okay, so, I want to say that my partner is Vilma, and she's fantastic. She's just amazing. I love her. I mean, we meet on Wednesday and Fridays. So in the middle of the week and before the end of the week. And I think our conversations are about an hour, but we talk a lot of things about the ego. And, she's very experienced too. So she's a fantastic, and we speak Spanish too.
Yeah,
but
awesome.
She's a fantastic partner. She paints and I do paint. And I have been painting while in the house, and I loved it. I just absolutely find my creativity in this space. What else? I haven't listened to any news because I think in the past I have said that I am in avoidance. And I am. Yes, I am. I don't know anything about the war, but my world is here and I'm just finding peace of mind in here. So many things are happening outside. I don't know what is happening.
Yeah. Well, I would say that there's 4 types of people that we need to have in the world right now. Those who are totally and completely asleep, unconscious, they have no idea what's going on, conscious-wise, and they're in fear. There are those who are more conscious and are navigating through what's happening. They're choosing love over fear. Those who are more aware, but they're not getting involved, not doing much. So just sending love, being willing to not engage in the fear is important. And then there are those who are we're actively doing things to help each other. All four are necessary. It's just part of the journey. So and sometimes we shift, we might move from a few, but to me, it's very important, people who are not necessarily engaged with what's happening in the world, but are holding light, are holding, that's what the meditators do. That's what so many of the Buddhists do. They're not watching the news, but they are just holding a high frequency. So paint away and have fun and plan your move and stay out of fear. That's just as powerful as those who are shifting and lifting, or those who are actively, teaching, coaching, doing whatever. We need everybody. We need everybody. So very cool. Dondra, how are you doing?
I can't hear.
I'm doing good. I was just thinking, one thing that I have been doing is drumming, and I'm just sending out love through drumming. And I listened to something today that was talking about the Schumann effect being just really off the charts right now.
Yeah.
And how it's almost, it's we're equating it to like a sound vibration. So I've been adding to the Schumann effect.
Yeah, it's happening. Let me let Laura
Hey, John?
know that I can hear her.
John?
John, where are you, John?
Where is John?
Yeah. That's so funny.
No, nothing. She was in
He's
here
in the
last
bathroom.
night, so the mic,
You're on. Lorelai, you're
Yes,
on.
he was.
Yeah, we can hear her.
like the mic. Where's the mic?
We heard the bathroom flushing, right? Yeah.
Hey, John.
There we go.
Yeah, hi, John.
Hi. Who's that? That's my class.
Yeah.
Hey,
That's my classmates.
Too cute. Too cute. Sharon, how are you doing, Sharon?
Have a good class.
Thanks.
I'm doing fine. I'm just chilling. I'm just not getting involved, not getting pulled in either directions. I'm just doing my thing.
Oh, lovely. We need that. We need people who are just doing their
Yeah.
thing.
I was trying to see where I fit, and you had 4 different persons, and I think I'm a cross between both.
Yes.
I'm sending the love. I'm not engaging in the fear, or if the fear pops in, I jump out of it, as quickly as I can.
Perfect. Perfect. Love, love, love that. So good to hear. Yalitza, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay, Lina. I'm doing okay. Doing my things too. Busy with my husband, busy with my 15-year-old boy. Doing a lot of stuff in the house, especially the basement. The basement was a big mess. Every day I taking something out. But I'm doing okay, try to get out from that to the bad energy every time watching TV. Because every time I watch the TV, I start crying. I don't know. And my husband told me, look, you know what? Don't watch TV anymore. I am tired of you crying. I'm crying all day long for no reason.
Well, that crying, it's not for no reason, because we are being touched in very deep places, and many of us are empaths. We will feel other people until you can hold your own frequency at a much higher place where you can sustain that. We are feeling a lot of what's happening. So if you cry and it doesn't feel like it's your own, something you can connect with, that is your own emotions, your own stuff, just know that you're feeling the collective. That's perfectly okay. So
okay.
It's a sign of a loving being. I feel it too. I've had my moments of crying too. So it's okay. We have to feel it to heal it. So it's perfectly okay.
Okay, because I was really worried about it. I was trying to make an appointment with a psychology, a psychiatrist, because I was like, my God, what is this? I was cleaning the basement and crying. I was doing so and crying. I don't know, but I think I will be okay, you know.
No, let yourself, you know, when you're crying, just ask yourself, what is this emotion that I'm sensing? And just recognize if there's sadness, if there's anger, if there's, you know, worry, just say it makes sense underneath, you know, with all that's going on, it's okay. Just don't judge yourself for crying. That's not okay.
I will try.
Okay.
Lina.
Thank you, Lina.
Lina, I wanted to tell everyone that your tomatoes are doing very well. And this morning I was working in the office and my husband came and he said, and I'm watching him through the window and he doesn't see I'm watching him examining the tomatoes out there. He comes and he said, did you know there are baked tomatoes on the tree? I found it so funny.
Well, when we have our next social, you get to bring the tomato salad. I love that. Yes, Lorelei.
So I don't know. I'm assuming you're talking about what recently just happened. Actually, I had a question around that, and then I just was on the phone with a client from Unity, and she was saying how upset she is about what happened. And I didn't watch it firsthand. I heard it third hand from somebody, and I have not watched it. And I don't have. This is what I wanted to ask you, Lina. It's like, how can we serve in this way? In other words, like, so here's someone that I really love who's really, and gets the fact that there's more to it than just the people that participated and, you know, there's a higher purpose and all of this kind of thing. Because I found myself asking myself, how can I be of service here since I'm not triggered in this particular situation when I'm triggered in many others, but not in this one for whatever reason? Like, what's the commonality that's uniting people that are so triggered by this?
Yeah. Well, you know, there's so many things that are getting activated. So as we've talked about so many times, the energetically, and obviously Lorelei can speak to this more than anybody, but energetically there is what lives in fear and what lives in the light. Those two energies is like there's a clear separation. You can tell the people who can hold their peace and those who are really afraid, and those who are trying to figure out, you know, kind of in which way are they going to go. So those who are feeling peace is because there is a trust. Back to the characteristics, there's a trust that all is going to be well, and you walk your talk. There is an honesty. You know, when you're feeling the emotions and you're sensing things that are happening, like Yelitsa's feeling, but there's, you know, we don't need to create drama around that. And then there are those who are feeling it, but it's triggering them because there's more work to do. So as energetically, there is a splitting, if you will. We're moving from the 3D world to the 5D world, and that bridge in the middle, it is going to take however long it takes for people to cross from one to the other. The only way to cross this is you have to do your work. You have to see the triggers. Those irritations are the invitations. Nobody can cross the bridge to 5D. 5D is you live embodying the truth of who you are. This is at the level that Jesus walked at. So the more that you can see what is happening and realize that it is all, like the Course says, everything is a lesson God would have us learn. If we can see what is happening with compassion, no judgment, there's no need to judge. Everybody is a sovereign soul having the experience that they're here by choice to have, and it's that experience that is causing them to have opportunities to awaken. And I'll share a little something that I learned about George Floyd, and this is something, I mean, you can find it anywhere if you look for that, but it's an opportunity for those who still have anger, who still have racism, who still have fear, who still have greed, whatever is getting activated, we have to look at it. So the best thing that you can do for somebody who is really activated, first of all, give them a hug and let them know what they're feeling is okay. Nobody is not feeling something they shouldn't be feeling. So everybody needs to have permission to be where they are. And then the next thing is, if they're open, ask them what is upsetting you. What about this? If it's a friend, especially if it's somebody that you know from, let's say, Unity. Now that doesn't mean that they're at this level of work either, because there's a lot of loving, well-meaning people at Unity that really haven't done that ego work, that don't even understand what that is. Yeah. So if they're open, ask them what is upsetting you, and then from there, follow intuition. Ask Holy Spirit to guide you, because they might be ready to look at a projection, but if they're not ready, you leave it alone.
Well, what idea came in, and what's happening more and more for me, which is stuff you talk about all the time, when we're just guided, whether it's what to eat for dinner, to where to go to get this, to put this on faith, and it's just all flowing. And now I've totally forgot what I was going to say about that. Anyway,
yeah.
I know. This is what came, and this came, I think, from the Holy Spirit. I found myself saying to Aileen, I feel like, because I'm an interviewer by trade, that's part of what I know how to do. I feel like I want to interview people who are experiencing this and see what is the commonality. Because, like I said, I don't intend to watch the clip. Actually, I'm thinking, why do I need to watch that? I've heard about what happened. And I have total honor and respect for what anybody's feeling around this. I just found myself thinking, how can I step up here, since this is an area for me that's not triggered?
Yeah. And it depends on where they are. It just depends on where they are, because if they don't understand projection, and we start asking people, well, you're feeling anger. Where is their anger? Where have you been the cause of something? Somebody might have gotten angry about. There is no way to enter a projection conversation with somebody who doesn't understand it.
Right.
Yes, they're angry at so-and-so. Well, where have you done with that person? You cannot enter into that conversation without cold turkey.
I mean, Colin Tipping would be saying that everybody signed on for this mission. The policeman, the guy who died. That everybody signed on for a higher purpose, to be of service to all of us. And I guess I'd like to be able to grab some of what that might be.
Well, and what that is, and this is where you have to keep it super simple. Because if you complicate it, and our ego likes to complicate it precisely to keep us from seeing what's at the root of it. So everything is energy. So if you think about, have you guys seen those designs? It's like you see it primarily like a Tai Chi design, where part of it is white.
Two fish, I think.
Yeah. So I'm going to do something kind of crude here.
Yin and yang?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Balance.
Okay, I don't know if you can see that design.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of white here, and then there's a little bit of black here. So humanity is in the process of moving to this direction. So to move to that direction, we have to erase a lot of the darkness. And how do you erase the darkness? Well, how did you erase your own unconscious self? It had to surface. You had to see. So I'm going to use, Kim as an example from our last conversation. She was able to see the thoughts that she had that were subconscious before, to help her see how the judgments were showing up, but they were childhood. Those were things learned in childhood. So if I have my little, dry erase board, I would just be erasing a little bit of this. So Kim was able to erase a little bit of what was in the darkness, was unseen to her. So as we erase the dark, we then begin to flip and become more of the light. So right now,
can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
So just a little bit of the terminology you're using. I feel like transcend rather than erase is a more accurate description of what really we all need to do in this situation. We can't erase the history. We can't erase what people have felt.
No. I meant, yeah. You're correct. I was saying if this was a white, my dry erase board, I would erase that around there so that you could see the white getting bigger. But yes, we're not erasing what's in our head. We are it's no longer going to have power over us. So as we
So
see
I know
it,
I came on conversation. I know I was a couple minutes late to the call, so my apologies. But are we talking about the George Floyd situation here?
Lorelei just was asking a question about a friend who is being triggered by it.
So I don't know.
We weren't really talking about
having a hard
that.
time with this part of the conversation about that sounding like it's no big deal and like there's something wrong with someone who is sad by it.
No,
Not at all. That's
not
not
at all. Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Right. Thank you for letting me ask.
No.
I have to admit it.
Actually,
I've been sad about it.
Let me mute. I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody.
Mute the birds.
Yeah, I've got birds. I'm in the back.
No, let me find where's the muting buttons. Where did those show up?
We can just all mute ourselves.
Yeah, if you don't mind doing that. Oh, there we go. I found it. Okay. And then Lorelei, we'll unmute you so we can keep that conversation going. Okay, so what is happening in the world, to keep it super simple, is that what God is the energy of light. God does not create darkness. There is no source of dark. Darkness is the result of turning our back on the light. So just as when the sun is shining, you face the sun, you don't see darkness. There's no darkness at all. When you turn your back to the sun, you will see that you cast a shadow. So in front of you, your shape will cast a shadow in front of you because the light is now behind you. When we cast that shadow, we identify with the shadow and not with being the light. So what has happened is that because we have been identified with the shadow, which is probably the best way I could describe that in this term is the shadow is a made up version of ourselves. Because the shadow, if you move out of the way, the sun will make that shadow go away. If you just turn sideways, the sun will immediately make that shadow go away. But when our back is to the light, which means our back is to the knowledge, we have been conditioned to not remember that we are the light. The shadow that we see is our idea about ourselves. Well, if you're programmed to be jealous, to be greedy, to be angry, to be fearful, that's what you're going to see everywhere. If you didn't get attention when you were a child, as an adult, you're going to be upset with people who don't give you attention. If you were abandoned as a child, as an adult, you're going to cling to people. So our shadow is an aspect of ourselves that is immature. And from that immature place, because we're not aware of it, it's out of our awareness. We call it the darkness. We call it a shadow work, because it's what would be known as the dark part of ourselves, because it's the uncomfortable part of ourselves. It's the painful part of ourselves. So what is happening is humanity is in the process of awakening at a mass level. And the reason is, again, if this was a dry erase board, I would have erased all of this and this would probably be half white. humanity has crossed a threshold. Enough of us have done our work, and we have, as Kim is saying, we have transcended in so many ways, letting our ego run our lives. We're not reacting as much as we're responding. So with humanity being almost half of it being cleaned up, cleaning up our consciousness, what is left is being seen more clearly. Not only that, but we have social media, we have cameras everywhere. So when something that was happening before, for example, let's go back to the days of, let's go back 50 years ago when somebody was murdered. Maybe it made it on the news, but if it didn't make it on the news, unless you were around that person, you didn't know about it. Unless that was in your town, you didn't know about it. So now we have so many people who have awakened, and the as within, so without, there is more light on the planet and there's more cameras on the planet. So we are seeing now a magnification of what is left. So it has to be seen. So as that is seen, because you cannot escape it for the most part, if you haven't done your work, it's going to trigger your shadow. If you have done your work, you will have compassion for them, because you will realize, just like me, it took me a while to go inside and do that. Just like me, it took me a while to recognize my part in this drama. So back to you, Lorelei, compassion, number one, hug them where they are. If they know about projection, then the only question is to see, well, what are you, what's getting triggered? What's coming up? Anger. Have you looked at that? Can you see the mirroring there? You do a beautiful job of mentioning that when you do your video posts, but that does not mean people understand what that is all about. So thanks for that question, Lorelei. So does anybody else have anything that they want to bring up before we get into, because I want to talk, guess what we're starting on this week? Yes, Kat. This week, we're starting on the characteristic of joy. And we're going to talk about joy, how to experience joy while you're in the middle of what's happening in the world, because we've got to look at those, joy is a characteristic of a teacher of God. And of course, you can't sustain that if you're not grounded in your truth, because there's a lack of trust, and that's going to affect the honesty. That if you're not in honesty about what you are, energy, then you're going to have very little tolerance for somebody who is in joy. You're going to feel offended. Again, it's going to be the triggers, and that's just the way that this operates. So Kat, go ahead. Oh, wait a second, I can't hear you. Hold on. Let's unmute you. Okay, do you have an unmute? Can you, there you go. There you go.
Okay. Well, this has been really interesting time. And I'm still very appreciative that I'm meditating, and I'm walking and that sort of thing. And I'm, again, so grateful for this course. What's happened is this group, this Antifa, whatever group, what Trump is calling terrorists, that are infiltrating, they've decided to come to Woodstock, right downtown Woodstock. And in fact, Saturday night, my daughter, Vanessa, insisted I spend the night with her, because that was the first night they were really going to be here, maybe. And so I went and spent the night over there, primarily just so that she would leave me alone. So, and plus it's kind of nice. I go get to be around her and all that. So last night, when I got home yesterday, I walked out and I saw but it was early, it was like 4:30. So I saw the protesters, and I just went over, I was actually right across the street from them. They were all I was just sending them love. I was just I did my, I was praying for peace and just safety for all the people, because I knew I wasn't going to stay out there late at night, because that's after dark is when they come. And then they had a lot of Woodstock peacefully, it was it was a lot of kids actually with their parents and stuff. But understand last night they arrested in downtown Woodstock here some of that group. So it's just interesting that I can look at that with compassion.
Yes.
And I'm not going into hatred and fear. My sort of a fear is if they started, I'm above the retail here in downtown Woodstock. If they set it on fire underneath me, then that's a cause for concern, because there are businesses down there, and that's what they've been doing, throwing Molotov cocktails and creating fires and stuff. That was a little bit of a concern. And then I realized an alarm's going to go off. I'll have time to get out, if that happens. And I don't think it will. I believe that it will not. And so it just, and it's because I went for a walk this afternoon on the trail and all that. And it's just having it in your front door, literally, it has really, it's a big test not to go into fear. And I found myself not going into fear, yet preparing, like I've got a bag packed in case I need to leave quickly. But just having it so close to home is just such a shame. What I can do is hold them in peace. I can hold them in fact, when, I tell you on my walks, I wish people wellness and happiness. Today, now I've added peace to everybody, peace everywhere. Everywhere I go in Woodstock, I'm adding peace and abundance, so that just for different reasons, and safety. So
yeah,
I'm very, I without this Course in Miracles, and a meditation, I don't think I wouldn't be in this place, I don't think. So I'm very grateful. I'm really grateful.
Good. And it takes a lot of work. So thank you for sticking with this. This is not easy work at all. And no. This is where we have to we get to watch our spiritual ego, especially at this time. And the way it's going to show up is to see whatever is going to be a trigger that is a reflection of you. And then we do the spiritual bypass, and now we blame them. If they wouldn't be doing this, it's their fault. They shouldn't be, graffitiing the building. They shouldn't be wrecking the windows. Well, we have to accept that it is happening. And if you can do something about it, then go do it. If you have the power to go stop them, then go do that. But to sit away from that and to let your ego judge that shouldn't be happening is to literally block your ability to send the kind of love that is necessary to transmute that energy. Because let me put in the screen share again. If we are operating at the level of the can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. If we're operating at this level, we are literally bringing in more light. We are erasing, if we had the dry erase board, you are removing density from yourself, which means you're pouring more light to the planet. If we go down here to blame, look at where blame puts us. Blame is yeah, you may not be as dense as powerless and fear, but you're still part of the density. And that's something that we want to really get clear, is we don't want to live in here, which is where it lets us know, the spiritualized ego, you're not trusting. And if you're blaming, you're not being honest. And if you're not being honest, you're going to be intolerant. That's just what happens. That's what judgment is. So clearly, you're not going to be a gentle person, and joy has gone out the window because it's been replaced with judgment. So these are absolutely beautiful, powerful times for us to see what's going on inside of us. all opportunities for growth. That's what it is. Thanks for sharing that, Kat.
Well, you know, and also when they're chanting Black Lives Matter, I'm saying, yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Meeting them there.
They do. They do because, you know, they do. And one of the things, I'm going to have to do a class. Let me make myself a note. Next week, let me focus on the chakras and the awakening process, so that we see how the chakras and the map of consciousness work together. That might be a little eye-opening, but yes, our job, if we want to be part of the light that assists with the ascension of the whole planet, is to check in when we're judging. If we are judging, we have lost our joy. So today's characteristic is joy, and we're going to talk about how to experience joy. Oh, I see Peggy joined us and Natalia joined us. Wonderful. So let me do this.
I was here. I just wasn't on the video.
Oh, okay. So let me.
Yeah, and I was in downtown Woodstock Saturday night, what Kat was talking about, and we were having dinner in one of the restaurants on the rooftop, just second floor.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine came who I haven't seen for a few months because of the, you know, the distancing, social distancing.
Yeah.
And before I went out, my neighbor sent me a message: whatever you do, don't go out tonight, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I'm on the way home. Just pray that I'll get home safely. And she was like North Georgia, where nothing was happening in the woods. And I listened to my heart, and I was like, my friend is coming, and she's driving from Dallas, Georgia. And I was like, no, I feel I'll be okay. I feel like it's all going to be good. I set the intention, and we had wonderful dinner. And it's first time she left the house at all, so she was a little bit fearful. And we had good time with my friend and my husband. And then we went to walk around the downtown Woodstock, and we saw the protesters. Because while we were sitting, enjoying sunset, taking selfies, and a friend of mine sent me pictures from Buckhead, which is like, oh my God, it looks like a war. It's so scary. It's like boarded windows and soldiers and those machines, whatever, army machines. And I was like, wow. And we were going to send you this picture. And we went walking, and all the protesters, they were young kids. They were like young kids in black and white, and everybody half in masks, half without. And cars were driving by, and they were honking like, and the protesters, and they were jumping with the signs like, yeah. So it seems like happy and peaceful, I don't know, event. And they didn't seem angry. And my husband was like, oh, I want to go buy them ice cream. I was like, oh, go on. So it's just, I don't know. I didn't feel any anger from them or anything. And I was like, you see, everything is peaceful in my world.
Well, good. I'm glad that it is that way. Thanks for sharing that. So I'm going to go ahead and just mute everybody so that there's no, so you unmute yourself when you want to chat. So this Saturday, if you guys want to join me, even though we're not in quarantine anymore, a lot of the things that I want to do, especially my dancing and my dance classes, are not fully open yet. So Saturday, if you guys, anybody wants to join, if I've got a couple of people who you're interested, raise your hand if you want to join Saturday, 10 to 12, if you'll be available. And I'll go ahead and put that out there. Oh, okay. There's a couple for sure. All right. So I'll send out a link for that for Saturday, 10 to 12. So let's do this. Let me read the characteristic of joy. And this is inside of the manual for teachers, because this characteristic is part of what it means to live inside of as an awakened being. To be a master, you operate with joy. And the reason you operate with joy is because you trust everything is as it should be. There's no judgment. In trust, in tolerance, there is no judgment. You know that this is just a play of energy. The people are energy. The energy that has condensed and could be called the darkness is expressing and expanding and dissolving into the light. So it's no different than the nighttime. The night gets really dark. It's always darkest right before the dawn. We are on the verge of the dawning of a new earth. So we are experiencing that dark moment when it's the darkest it can be. And those of us who can be aware that the light is just on the other side, that what we're doing, again, if I had the dry erase board, if I took the eraser, you know, if I take the eraser to the dark side, what is on the other side is the light. It's a given. So the mind has to be trained into what is being released, what we're transcending is what no longer serves us as a humanity that is ascending. A humanity that is going from operating in division, in separation, in inequality, in judgments, in superior and inferiorness. Humanity is on the verge of shifting. This is where, if you study astrology, if you pay attention to the astronomy, if you're paying attention to what's happening with the energies, the flares that are coming off of the sun, if you pay attention to all of those things, you'll get a big picture of what's happening outside of our own little world, not only our personal human world, but outside of this planet. There's a lot going on in the universe that is supporting exactly what we're feeling as humans. So anyways, joy is something that you experience when you recognize that this is a dance of energy. If it's personal, if it's human, if you're on the side of judgment and feeling bad and this is terrible, well, clearly you don't trust, you are going to suffer. Then at least be in honesty and say, I'm in judgment, I'm in fear. And that way you can work, you can look at the projections, because it's an opportunity to see that what is outside of us has been created because it is a part of what's possible inside of us. So the racism outside, we have got to see that as something that is possible inside of us. When we look at places where we've done that, where we look at places where either we were the perpetrator of racism or the receiver of the discomfort of racism, we have to acknowledge that we energetically contribute to the planet unconsciously before. Now, are we contributing to it through a reaction by blaming? Or are we helping to erase it off of the proverbial dry erase board by saying, I'm capable of that. Now let me set my tuner, my frequency, to not be in that density of racism, but which is division, separation, specialness, but to rise to the higher frequency of compassion, of gentleness, of understanding. So what is happening outside? Every one of us has contributed to it, if not deliberately or even unconsciously in this lifetime. It's part of a cumulative of all lifetimes. So this is why the work of Course in Miracles says that we're using time to undo time. And Lorelei, from 10 to 12 on Saturday, I'm going to do a group coaching call. So what is important to understand is if you don't acknowledge that it is yours, you will deny your power to be part of what cleans it up. If you judge it, you cannot be part of what heals it. And guess what? You're going to keep getting triggered until you see it, because God is calling all of us to become totally and completely transparent beings. Beings of love and light are transparent. We don't have sticky stuff that is hiding. We become total, complete, transparent beings, and our joy comes from not having secrets. That's where the joy comes in. But let me read joy. So this is in the manual for teachers, and it's on page 13. Joy. Joy is the inevitable result of gentleness. Gentleness means that fear is now impossible. And what could come to interfere with joy? The open hands of gentleness are always filled. And what are they filled with? They're filled with compassion. They're filled with a desire to help other people. Your hands are filled with what you're giving, because giving and receiving are one. Your joy, you're there to go help. Your joy is your willingness to participate in recognizing that those who are not in joy, they're hurting. So why would we judge the ones who are hurting? And it doesn't matter what side they're on. It doesn't matter if they're a rioter. It doesn't matter if they're a protester. It doesn't matter if they're the police. It doesn't matter if they are, it doesn't matter if they're the mayor of the city. If somebody is not experiencing connection with their source, they're going to be at some level of pain. They're going to be somewhere in that chart, and it's not our job to find out where on the chart they are. It's our job to be the presence of love, to have enough awareness to recognize that their pain, you have compassion for it because you've been there before. You know what that pain is, or you acknowledge that you, because you're human, have the capacity to also do that. And that is something that we get all spiritualized and we say, well, I would never do that. Yes, you would. If you were in those shoes, you would. If you were in that situation, you would. The people who do what they do because they have come to that place in their lives because of all their experiences.
Hey, Lina?
Yeah.
I was just going to say how tough that is in this situation, because I'm so angry at the people that perpetrated this on George Floyd and Breonna and Aubrey. I really, it's so hard for me not to judge them and to hold them in contempt. It's so hard for me to feel joyful and see the light of God in them.
Well, so that's it's a direct reflection of not seeing the light of God in you, because the light of God in you is what would see the light of God in them. So can I play with you with this one?
Oh, sure. Please help me. Absolutely.
All right. So bring into your consciousness the upset, and just be present with it. And once you feel that, let me know. Well, let me put the chart up so that we are looking at that. And look at the chart. Let's see. And tell me where. So just look at the dark side, because that's where it is. What exactly is the emotion that you're feeling?
Hatred and rage.
Okay, so down here, that's pretty dense. So we're going to start with we're going to work with the hatred and rage. And then we're going to work our way up so that you can see the projection, okay?
Okay.
All right. So feel that hatred and rage and notice how your body feels. Are you tight or tense, or are you at ease and at peace?
Oh, I feel very agitated. I feel my whole body is kind of moving around, just with agitation. Yeah.
So let's give it a number from 1, the worst you've ever felt, to 10, the best you've ever felt. How does the density of your body feel? 1, the heaviest, densest, most uncomfortable, to 10, total ease and peace.
3.
Okay. So I want you to just be with your awareness on the rage. Ask that rage, that hatred, to remind you of when before now did you experience that level of hatred and rage?
Yeah, when I was 4 years old, we were evacuated out of Congo because of, well, the Congo had been given its independence in 1960 from Belgium, and there were 3 different groups vying for power, and it was unsafe for missionaries to be there. So I didn't experience the hate personally, but I could see the fear. I really, what I experienced is the fear in the adults all around me.
That's yeah, because we're energetic beings and we're little sponges. So feel, so let's check in between that childhood experience and today. Has there been any hatred, any rage towards anything or anybody else in between?
Oh, sure. So I was a number of times going back and forth between Congo and the US. There were times when I was very angry that I had to go one way or the other. You know, when we were going from the States to Africa, it was, I don't want to leave what I have here. And when we were going from Congo back to the States, it's like, I don't know what I'm facing, and I'm comfortable here, and I don't want to go back across. And then the final time was between my junior and senior year. We moved from Nashville to Atlanta, so I had to finish up high school in a brand new high school, and I was very angry at my parents.
Okay, so then let's boil this down to what I'm hearing as the common theme is that you lost your freedom in essence. The anger and the hatred is that you lost your safety, your security.
Yes, safety and security is it. That's it exactly, yes.
Okay, so the way that this is gonna work is I'm gonna walk you up the scale, okay? So I now want you to, and do not let your intellectual mind overthink this. I need you to be totally, completely follow me. So stay with my words.
Okay.
Don't analyze yourself. All right, so now we're gonna move up into revenge. Who would you say were the people who caused you to lose your comfort, your safety, your freedom?
Well, first it was the hierarchy of the Presbyterian Church, because my folks were missionaries. So it was not them who made the decision. It was whatever their leaders were that said, this is what you're going to do. So
mom and dad had an authority over them.
Yes.
Okay. So then who was the authority that made you do it? Because the government didn't make you do it. The government, the authority, made your mom and dad.
Sure, mom and dad. Sure.
Okay. So we now want to bring mom and dad into your conscious awareness and recognize that hatred and that rage is really towards mom and dad, because mom and dad had their ideas of what they wanted to do. They had their life plans, and that didn't take into account yours. It really depended on them getting their way.
Absolutely. Yes. Very, very true.
So I want you to just recognize, mom and dad, this hatred, this rage, in my mind, you're the one to blame.
Yes.
Okay. So now, what have you done? When have you ever experienced revenge against anybody? Felt revenge, wanted to take revenge, somebody got a job and you didn't and you wished them ill, somebody got the girl you wanted and you slashed their tires, or anything in your mind. You don't have to give me the example. I just want you to bring to mind a time that you took revenge on somebody for something that they did, even if it was only mental. It could be something like somebody said you're not going to amount to much, and you took revenge by making something out of yourself. Somebody said you wouldn't be able to get that promotion, and you worked extra hard, and in a way you took revenge, show them, yes, I'm going to do this.
Okay, I've got something.
Okay, so now I want you to feel your body and tell me from 1, the worst you've ever felt, to 10, the best you've ever felt. How does the body rate? What's
A
your
4. A 4. Yeah.
Okay, so notice we went from 3 to 4. So we're just releasing, we're creating a little space. So now let's go from that to anger. Can you look at mom and dad now? Instead of having that hatred, just a little anger that you had to move around. And just,
Yeah, I feel that in my jaws. Yeah.
okay. And your jaws, what a great example. Have you expressed to mom and dad, have you spoken the anger towards them for what you felt that you might have lost because of their moves?
Yes.
Yeah. And when you expressed your anger toward them, what did they say to alleviate the anger?
Well, they didn't say anything to alleviate the anger. Theirs was just telling me what their position was, not understanding what my feelings were.
Okay, so just feel like, you got to express to your parents. So now feel feel your body, and tell me, how does your body feel now? 1 tight and tense at anger, or you expressed yourself, or at ease and at peace at number 10?
6.
Okay. All right, so let's just jump to the place of frustration and impatience. You know what was the source of the hatred. You know what you did to get revenge on something. We moved through the anger. You expressed yourself. We're going to move, blame. We knew it was mom and dad's fault because they were following orders. But let's just get to the place of frustration and impatience. So from this place, I want you to look back on that hatred and that rage, and tell me one good thing that you learned about yourself because of that hatred and that rage.
I'm very resilient.
Okay. So feel into being resilient and tell me, how does your body feel when you know you're resilient? 1 tight and tense, 10 ease and peace.
Oh, an 8.
Okay. So now I want you to look back and feel into that revenge that you took. What did you learn from that experience of revenge? Getting back at something.
It didn't bring me joy.
Yeah. What did you learn from it?
That I wasted a lot of energy.
Okay. So what would you prefer to do with that awareness now?
I'd like to look forward and to see the good that's coming towards me.
Okay. So look on that list, and what characteristic would that be? What it would be the emotion that you would put to that? Contentment, hopefulness, optimism, positive expectations?
Oh, it would be the top. No, it would be joy and knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, and appreciation, for sure.
How does your body feel? 1 tight and tense, or 10 at ease and at peace?
At 10, and really it's an excitement. It's like an anticipation.
Okay. And that anger that you felt and you expressed yourself, what did you learn from being able to express yourself to your parent or anybody else?
Empowerment, that I could express myself, and that nothing bad's going to happen when I express myself.
Yeah. And would that also give you the ability to feel that your voice matters?
Yes.
Okay. And how does that make your body feel? What's the number? 1 tight and tense, or 10 at ease and at peace?
That's a 10. I feel very relaxed, at ease. Yeah.
So that hatred and rage that started when you were a little boy, 3-4 years old, how many years did you carry that rage before you began to work it and move into the levels of revenge, moving energy, speaking up for yourself, getting into anger and expressing yourself? How many years roughly before you were able to work through that?
Well, it was about 35 years before I started working through that.
Okay. All right. So now at this moment, overall, what is the emotion that you're feeling?
The emotion is encouragement.
Okay.
It is um, it's kind of like looking at the opportunity to look at things differently. I don't know what that emotion is, but
Yeah. So I would say that's probably a level of appreciation because you can see things differently.
yeah, it's appreciation. It's
For the
optimism.
lesson. Yeah, optimism. Okay, so that bounces you up in that high frequency.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's where I want you to look at the projection. When you look at what's happening with hatred and rage, it's because you haven't forgiven yourself for the hatred and rage that you had towards your parents,
Okay.
towards others. So I want you to give yourself permission right now to forgive yourself for carrying for 35 years that hatred and that rage that has been costing you being in appreciation and optimism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's great homework.
Yeah. Can you see where the hatred and the rage kept you from seeing more clearly, having something optimistic to look forward to?
Sure.
It acted as a cork, a block to,
Yeah.
it acted as a block to your joy.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I want you to look at revenge a little bit differently. I want you to think that you're going to take revenge as a commitment for you to take revenge over your ego, that you're not going to let your ego take you down into hatred and rage, that you've done the work that is necessary, and in anger, you're going to be able to express yourself. You're going to speak up. And what you're speaking up to is against your ego. I am not going to revert back to being a 3-4-year-old powerless person and go through this. I forgive myself for all those years that I wasn't able to speak up. So I'm taking revenge over my ego. I am not going to let ego take me down. I'm going to speak up and tell me if that, how does that feel in you to take command of the energy inside of you?
Well, as you're talking, I feel the energy moving, up from first chakra, up past the fourth chakra into the fifth.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So you can feel that here, and this particular map of consciousness does not have the forgiveness in there, but the forgiveness happens in the middle. You can't go into the light without the forgiveness work.
Yeah.
So here, we're going to just take a second and just forgive yourself for all of the years that you had no idea how quickly ego gets set off and you get pulled down into the first, second, third chakras, which are survival chakras, when you're operating from your immature child self that feels unsafe in the world, feels insecure in the world. Other people have power over you. And all of this is being recorded, by the way.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'll watch it again.
Yeah, because I'd rather you stay with me in the practice. So if can you give yourself the gift of recognizing all of these years operating from that immature base chakras in reaction, hatred and rage for you not having the ability to express yourself and be free.
Okay.
Can you feel the sincerity of that?
Yeah, I can feel the opportunity of that. It feels like, oh, okay, let's, it's like trying on a different hat. Okay, oh, wow, let's try this on. All right, let's see how that fits. How can I wear that and be comfortable in that?
Yeah, but here's the key that I want you to really zero in on. That hatred and rage was because you didn't have the freedom to do what you wanted to do.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with that?
Well, hatred and rage feels like it was because I didn't have any control. I guess
Yes,
that's how I put it.
but you didn't have control to do what you wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So if somebody had control, you didn't have freedom.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sure. As a kid, I mean, that would make sense. Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it needs to make sense no matter what. If somebody else is deciding your fate, you don't have the freedom to decide your fate.
Right. But that makes more sense as a kid than it does now. I mean, I have the control. I have the ability to control that now. As a kid, I didn't have that because that's what parents do, is they help us to move through life.
Yes, but here's how this is showing up, and it is controlling you. Because when you observe somebody else doing something, let's talk about the rioters, since that's what activated it. Now you
Rider, no, it wasn't the rioters that activated it. It was what happened to George Floyd that.
Oh, George. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
What happens to George Floyd now activates your rage, and you now again have lost your freedom because the ego has put you in essence, it puts you down in a prison because your body goes tight and tense. You go down to a 3.
Yeah. Yeah, because it goes down to a place of being controlled by, I get that, controlled by somebody else. Yeah.
And now you're being controlled by your emotions.
Yeah.
Not by what is happening to George Floyd, but by what you're interpreting is happening to George Floyd.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because in your mind, you are judging that as you're in a place of what is happening shouldn't happen. And your mind is deciding that now you are God.
So much of this goes back to the idea of we are not our bodies. And that's just where I haven't fully integrated that.
Yeah, that's where I'm going.
George Floyd's physical, his physical personality is not who he was, but that's what triggers it. Is I see that as George Floyd is that physical body there.
Yes, because you're projecting onto him. He has somebody with their knee on him. He doesn't have freedom to be himself. And your ego goes into, I have been there too. I have been oppressed.
Yeah.
Even if it's not the same thing, it's the same feeling. So what happens is that the ego blocks your freedom. You're not really a free person deciding how you get to respond to the situation. But that rage and that anger comes from not having forgiven yourself, having forgiven your parents, and letting your ego put you in prison. But now, here's what's going to shift that, is to recognize that George Floyd, just like you, is in God's hands.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the judge and jury for George Floyd's journey, because we don't know what agreements were in past lives, what agreements are in future lives. We don't know that George Floyd doesn't have a plan at a soul level to have volunteered himself. And I want everybody to hear this and to the best of your ability, see if you can accept this as a possibility. That George Floyd, no different than Jesus, was willing to crucify the body to give us yet another lesson that we're not our bodies, but we are the resurrected soul that moves beyond the body. But until all of us can accept that what we are is divine souls, bodies are going to continue to be crucified over and over again as examples. Because if we hold the body more important, we are not holding the soul as valuable, more valuable.
Well, that really gives me goosebumps thinking that George Floyd made an agreement to sacrifice himself just as Jesus made an agreement to sacrifice himself.
Just as you made agreement to sacrifice yourself when you let your ego take over.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if you want to resurrect, it happens through the recognition that to blame your parents, to blame the Congo government, to blame the head of the church that moved your parents as missionaries, to blame anybody is to continue to crucify yourself, because you focus on what is to be blamed, and now the essence of your joyful self cannot be resurrected. Because to be in hatred, you cannot be the lover of life. You cannot be the happy person. You cannot be the one with positive expectations. And even if you can't go to happiness, you can still go to hopefulness. And at least know that there is a God, there is a power greater than you. And if you cultivate that trust, you'll be hopeful that humanity will be able to learn from George's lesson and be able to take what has happened so that we don't have to wait another 2,000 years to learn the lesson. But you can't project that hatred outside of you. Otherwise, you're not free inside of you. You have just been imprisoned by your own mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that. I get that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. How does that feel? I know a lot more is going to show up from this.
Well, that takes me to a different place and gives me a different way to look at what's happening in the world and what's happening in my own life as I project out there. And so it really brings that back into me on, okay, what is it that I continue to work on, to heal, so that I can see what's out there in the world in a different light.
Yes, because if you go up to your higher self and you are operating from light, what you will be able to do from that place is to have the clarity so that God can use you the way God needs to use you.
Yeah, yeah.
You'll be inspired in whatever way it looks like for you. But we cannot be available for God when we're playing God down here and judge and jury.
Yeah, yeah.
And when we're down here, we are prisoners in our own mind.
That's where I've been. That's
Yeah.
absolutely where I've been the last several days. Yeah, for sure.
So now, because we're talking about this, let me use the other side as an example for everybody. So when we look at the riots, when we look at the protesting, we have got to be really clear that we've got ego and God operating here. I want you to think of the rioters, the ones who are destroying things. This is the ego being a bully. I want you to think about the rioters, the protesters, as people who are coming from their heart. People who are saying, I deserve freedom. I deserve to be loved. In some cases, coming from the egoic victim side. So we've got to take what's happening and divide it into those two sides, that bully and that victim. Mm-hmm. So the bully is going to take advantage of a situation to get attention and to basically, there's personal gain in there somewhere. They're going to activate destruction for the sake of, because they can. That's what bullies do. Then there's the protesters. Now the protesters, not all of them, some of them are coming from up here. There's a lot of protesters coming from a place of positive expectation. They expect with total and complete belief, with passion, with knowledge, that everybody deserves this freedom. And then we have the protesters who are coming from down here, from feeling oppressed, from feeling powerless. So these protesters, some of them are getting angry. Some of them, when the rioters start doing the more violent things, some of these protesters, it's almost as if they're given permission through they're a little bit insecure, so they kind of get a little jealous that, oh, that person threw a brick through the window. Ooh, and that feels good. They may want to get a little jealous. I feel that jealousy, but it's an energy that is moving. And then then they get activated in that hatred and rage that they didn't come in with, because when you feel powerless, you don't have rage. You are basically, almost at a depressed level. But you begin to see other people moving energy. So that hatred and that rage then begins to move into revenge. It begins to become well, I'm going to show you, you're not going to keep me down. And then from there, we're going to blame the people who've done this to us, whether it's the whites that we're blaming, or maybe other Black officials who have not done something to help. Then we're going to be worried about what's going to happen. And some are going to be disappointed about what they did. And some are going to be frustrated and irritated that their movement is not becoming as helpful as they would like for it to be, because it got tainted with some of the bullies that operate at this energy and some of the protesters from their heart who are operating at a higher frequency. So we've got to understand that people who are feeling disempowered, when they're disempowered, they need to move the energy. And the ones who are moving the energy in a violent way clearly are creating problems that are going to need to be addressed, still need to be addressed. But there are people who are moving energy through speaking up. Their protest is in talking, it's in marching, it's in wanting to be heard, because they're moving towards the light. So let me stop there for a second, because I want to make sure that makes sense. There is a movement of the energy that has to take place. You cannot avoid it. So just as David was able to walk through moving his own energy, we heard him go from being at a 3, moving to a 4, moving to a 6, moving to an 8. What is happening in humanity is that we somehow, when we have some idea of what good behavior is, we tend to judge other people for not doing the behavior that we know is good. But do they have the tools to do that? Have these people been given the opportunity, and not just in this case, in any situation, have they been given the opportunity to express themselves? Have they been given the opportunity to let their rage be recognized? Everybody who feels oppressed is a soul that came to this planet to experience freedom. Where did that freedom get taken away? Was it that their parents sent them to boarding school? Was it that their parents moved them from this place to another? Was it that they were not given the proper education, were not given the proper or equal benefits? So we have to understand that everybody who is feeling oppressed, they are just like us, a soul who is a freedom-seeking being. So our compassion is in understanding, seeking to understand what is it that they feel has happened to them. Those who are bullies and are taking advantage of the situation, those people need to be addressed in one way, and it could be, punishment, jail time. They still need to be helped to see what's going on in their head, because nobody who is joyful, nobody who trusts God, nobody who trusts life, nobody who is honest would do that. So we have one group that needs to be pulled out, if you will, incarcerated, whatever needs to be done there. And then we have another group who is doing the best that they can to express hundreds of years of not having had the freedom to feel safe. So we've got to have compassion. And the only way we can have compassion for them is to see, where have we been oppressed? And if you haven't been oppressed at that level, it's still the same energy to be oppressed by not being given the opportunity to stay living in your own home. It's the same energy. You did not get to be you. That's it. And as an expression of the divine, We're all here, every one of us, endowed by the Creator with the same inalienable rights. It's even in our Constitution. It's what the Course in Miracles tells us. We are free. We are free beings. God gave us total and complete power to create our own reality. When in this world, others have power to override our reality, whether you're a child in a white privileged home or you're a child in a Black low-income home, the suppression of your power is still the same. And until all of us get that freedom is freedom is freedom, and it needs to be freedom for everybody equally, we're going to continue to be played. Our emotions are going to get played with, and we're going to be pitted, Blacks against whites, tall against short, Democrats against Republicans, gays against straights. That game, the people who understand the way the mind works will keep pitting us against each other. The Great Awakening is for humanity to stop looking to an authority figure to tell us who to like and who not to like. And we move out of that looking for authorities to give us permission to be okay, to acknowledging that we are okay because God made us that way. We are free because God gave us that freedom. We matter and are worthy because God gave us that freedom. So anybody who is not at that level of awareness, they're somewhere on the chart, somewhere they are making their way up the chart. Wherever they are, they're making their way up the chart. We want people to express themselves, to be heard so that they can move into the light. So protesters that are doing it peacefully, they are on a healing journey. And then when somebody shows up to get attention, to take advantage of a healing process, they need to be dealt differently, because that's a whole different thing. You know, that's where society has created places where we take those who are a little bit more violent and we deal with them somewhere else. A lot of people get rehabilitated in jails. So Mina said, Lina, is it like George Floyd is like Jesus Christ had a role? I feel like I do not want to react to the illusion. Mina, say a little bit more. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. So Mina, if you can unmute yourself. Yes.
Yes. As David was talking, I just had the idea that George Floyd was playing a role.
Yes.
And similar to Jesus Christ,
yes,
is creating a movement 2020 years later that is uniting the world.
Yes.
Because there is movement in London and Paris and Spain, and everyone is seeing how uncomfortable it is to be Black. Yes. And the roles that blacks have been playing and other races have been playing. And maybe he selected this role. But at the same time, I'm thinking about the illusion. For example, all these riots that have been happening in Los Angeles, and it's an illusion. I mean, these are material things that are being burned.
Yes.
But the importance is, what is this creating in the mind of a lot of people that is reuniting the world?
Yeah. So that's a very good question. So we have to look at illusion in the proper way here. And that is the illusion that anything that they're breaking or that they are destroying, in this world, we give that value. But in and of itself, it's valueless. We give it value. So let's not put too much focus on the material stuff. Then let's look at the other way of looking at illusion, which is in their minds have been trained into believing that they are less than At some level, the training has happened, and that is also an illusion. So illusion that I'm less than, throwing rocks or stones at a building that we have made, you know, more special or better than, or like something that is worth something, because the person who has been taught at some level that they're less than don't know their own worth. So what do? We take revenge against something that we think has value so that it will hurt the people who own that thing. They're losing the material, you know, the worth of their material stuff, because there's a loss of the worth inside. So one illusion gets projected out onto the other. The other side, the peaceful side, is where there is a reclaiming of the worth. Those who are speaking up and are actively recognizing, I can speak up and I am demanding because I'm worth it. That's somebody who is moving through the illusion. So that's why we have to separate what's really going on here, because everybody is not at the same level. Somebody is trying to take advantage of a situation for their own personal gain, and somebody is trying to do a healing journey. So does that make sense, Mina? But everybody who is working through their stuff, this is healing for the whole planet. This is when everybody knows their worth. This is healing for all of us. And yes, Vilma, this is helping you with your forgiveness work. And Yalitza, yeah, feeling the same way.
Yes.
Thanking David. And let's see, I'm not sure who is PM from.
Me, it's Peggy.
Oh, Peggy, yes. Okay. So every Black man, woman that this continues to happen to has agreed to be crucified. Okay, I have to work on this. Yes, sweetie, because here's the thing. We cannot stop at the idea of Jesus being the one crucified. We have to look at the ones who committed the crucifixion, whether it's the two guys who shot the runner, or if it's the policeman who's on the knee of George. So Jesus, what Jesus said, I forgive them for they know not what they're doing. So Jesus was operating at the level of truth that says, I know that they cannot take my freedom from me. They're only crucifying a shell. The body is a shell. It is a vessel. It is a vehicle. So we've got to get clear that we have to value the soul, not the body. When you value the soul, then you automatically value the body as an expression of the soul. But when we only value the body and not understand our eternalness, we are susceptible to fear. So what has happened to us for millennia, thousands of years, because we don't value our divinity, we are fearful and have abdicated our freedom. See where freedom is up here? For a false sense of safety. We are truly in insecurity and unworthiness because we do not know that our true safety, our true security comes from owning our power as a soul, not from believing that we're just a human who an authority figure has power over us. So right now, yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Peggy. I'll come back to you in a second, Mina. Peggy, go ahead.
And I hear that, Lana, and I do believe that George was used as a catalyst because I do see a difference. Okay, I see that things are going to be different this time. But the but my frustration, which puts me down in that dense area, is that I have an 18-year-old grandson that comes in and says to me, you know, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I didn't even go protesting. I didn't riot. But the moment that someone walked into my employer's office or place of employment, they saw me as a threat.
Yeah.
And I could sense it.
Yeah.
Although he's probably in a better place than I am, because he doesn't allow it he doesn't allow it to make him feel threatened, although he recognizes it.
Yeah.
Because he says, I'm an energy that can either accept it or push it away.
Yeah.
He says, because, and that's just how he is.
Yeah.
But, and I know that because he's 18.
Well, but hold on a second. Hold on, Peggy. It's not because he's 18. It's because just 18. It's because he's also operating from a higher frequency than you are.
Yeah.
So we got to give them this. A lot of the young people that are marching, that are out there, they're operating from a very high frequency because they're here to bring this to the planet. So the problem, if we're going to call it an opportunity here,
okay,
the opportunity here is we have to do what Jesus did. We've got to forgive the ignorance of those who have decided some lives are worth more than others.
I hear you.
And until we claim our own worth, we are going to want an authority figure to recognize it for us. And your your grandson sounds like he feels more of his own inner worth. And listen, I get the concern of your children feeling this. I have a white son and a black son. So, yeah. And we sit at dinner, and I have one son who's afraid to drive at night and one son who doesn't. So I get that that's ingrained. So all of our work is for them to recognize their power, get connected to their God, to their soul, and continue to move through that process of not being identified with the body as being who they are. The identification with the body is what Jesus came to teach 2,000 years ago. The identification with our ego is what the Buddha was teaching us 2,500 years ago. If today we don't identify with our soul, we don't identify with what is eternal, we're still looking for somebody else to make us safe, to make us okay. And that is, we have to work through the energies of this, but we still have to, with awareness in this group, is to recognize that our compassion for those who are in fear, who are expressing, who are, it's a healing journey. We have to see it as a healing journey, moving through layers of consciousness. We've got to be compassionate for anybody who's going through that healing journey. But if we are afraid for ourselves, then Peggy, you've got to look at the place in you that does not yet recognize your sovereignty, that does not yet recognize that you are pure energy, because your freedom from fear comes when you know you're not a body. I'm not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. That freedom that allows you to recognize your eternalness is what is being preyed upon by those who attempt to control others. And when we are no longer afraid of death, we cease to become controllable. And that's a very hard thing to understand. It is very hard to understand. But if we can stand on the side that, I think it was Mina was talking about this, these movements are around the world. There is a consciousness that is getting activated, recognizing the value of life, period. And I want to acknowledge a comment that Jim made. Nina, I'll get back to you in a second. So Jim, you said your cousin died in police custody, but he didn't make the nightly news. Yes, so many don't make the nightly news. And there is so much There's so much that we're not seeing. You know, the numbers that I hear around the world is 25,000 people die of starvation every day. Every day. Do those lives matter? How many children are being abused every day? How many girls, women are being prostituted against their wills every day? Thousands every day. So do those lives matter? And I'm just saying this because of the consciousness of this group. Because if this group can get it, we're going to hold a powerful light for the whole planet. And that is everybody that is playing a role in whatever circumstance they're here in one of two ways: to highlight the darkness that is calling for light, or to be the light that exposes the darkness. Which one do you want to be? If we're going to judge, we are being the darkness that needs light. So you're going to need somebody else to come and pull you out, to throw you a lifeline. Are you going to be the light? You're going to be the one that assists in calling people out of the darkness. You're going to be able to assist in getting to the place where we are one energy. Course in Miracles says over and over and over, we are one energy. And until all of us matter equally, we're going to be played upon by human authorities. Again, the Bible said it, you cannot have two masters. Either God is our authority and we're all one, or we have different authorities on the planet who decide who is good and who is bad, who goes free and who doesn't, who gets charged and who doesn't. As long as we are looking to fickle humans who change their mind for many, many reasons to create laws that are consistent, we are going to be operating in fear. If we align with God and are under no rules but God, it's a lesson we studied not too long ago. Under no rules but God, you recognize your sovereignty, but you also recognize everybody else's. And what is still being shown to us is that there is still too much racism. And racism is basically superiorness of one race or another, because it goes both ways. And we always, 3, 5 ways, 6 ways, whether it's yellow skin or red skin or whatever it is, brown skin, white skin, black skin, we come here to become masters so that we can be examples of total and complete unconditional love. And that shows up in our trusting that we don't know what anything is for.
Well, that's what he said. My grandson said, Nana, I'm just an energy that's here temporarily.
Listen
he said,
to him.
And whatever happens here, and then I go on to the next one. He says, I'm excited. He said, my life is not going to be governed by anything that, because he's saying nothing is real, and he hasn't even studied the Course of Miracles.
Well, because they come in, he's still at that high frequency. He hasn't descended. So you have so much, or you have such a great guru in your home. So thank you for sharing that. But let me check with Mina. Mina was going to say something, and then I wanted to just to open up. I want to check with David again. Mina.
Oh, yeah, I was going to comment about vandalism. You know, I think I sense here for the vandalism.
Yeah.
However, again, we're thinking about only those external values, right?
Yeah.
The things that we don't take to when we died. We have attachment to these values, external values.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing how they're breaking all of this, and then we suffer, and but when you think about it, and we don't value that, we're learning not to value that.
Yes.
Actually, gives you some kind of freedom. It gives you freedom.
Yeah, and it's highlighting how we bring out the police to protect buildings and material things, as opposed to training the police to value human life. So a lot of lessons we're seeing. Again, there's so much light on the planet that we have to see where things are incongruent with love, where things are not at the frequency of the love. So when we look at what's happening, watch what is it that you value, watch what is it that you judge. But first of all, there's going to be something inside of you. If there's a reaction, that irritation is an invitation. And if you are focused on certain things outside, what are you valuing that you're valuing more than the sanctity of life itself, not bodies, but life itself that hasn't been honored, because every single person is God expressing itself. Every single person is the Christ consciousness walking upon the planet. We have been trained to value our family first, and then our community next, and then our country, our religion. But we've got to move out of what the Course calls specialness. Until all lives are valued equally, we're going to continue to need examples of inequality to force us, to push us into recognizing equality. So the inequality is going to continue until we see ourselves as one with all that is. That's just the way it works. So let me just check with David real quick. David, how are you doing? Because I kind of took you through that a little bit quicker than normally I would have done a process with somebody. So how are you?
I'm sitting here thinking, I want to go to Washington this weekend, just to be there and to offer support and to be a ground, just to help people ground. Not that I want to tear up anything, but it's like what, my thought is, what can I do? How can I support people who are feeling the terror, who are feeling the disjointed system? What can I do, and how can I let our leadership know that what they're doing is not helping?
Yeah. Well, and so much of it is really from the bottom up, because
yes.
This starts with our police departments. If we want to march on something, marching to the police department and say enough, marching to the justice system, to the courthouse, it starts at the root. This is from the bottom up.
It is because we have such an absolute militarized system. I mean, you look at just some of the videos last night, even in Atlanta, of young people getting pulled out of cars because they were later than 9 o'clock, and
wild.
Like, oh my gosh. I mean, I'm just seeing some of that stuff thinking, oh, that doesn't support my belief system.
Yeah. And so if we want to do something, let's do it here. So let's organize, let's get parents involved. Let's parents go to the Cobb County Courthouse and let's do something here. Let's be local and affect change locally, because we can certainly do that. And this is an expression of our, this is moving to express in a healthy way, is to go through the heart. You cannot bring up what's stuck in the first, second, third chakras without coming through the heart. So there has to be love. There has to be a willingness to speak from a loving place. But when we speak from the lower chakras and bypass the heart, we create more problems that still need to be, clarified later on. So if we don't want to leave a trail of things that other people have to clean up, we've got to be the ones who ground. Exactly, your words were perfect. We've got to be the grounding presence that from love. The Course does not say anywhere that you don't speak up. If anything, it says that it is our job to be our brother's savior. We are here to bring salvation. How do you save others? One, you don't blame them because you've done your inner work. And two, you become a vessel of inspiration. And God sends you to the courthouse. God sends you to run for office. God sends you to become a policeman. God sends you to stay home and pray. So we are all being used, but it has to be not from our will, but thine will be done.
Yeah.
Lina, I was at the Marietta protest today, from the march from Laurel Park to Marietta Square. It was, there's a post, I posted on Facebook about it, but there's going to be another peaceful march on Sunday afternoon, if anybody does want to go as a group.
Oh, that would be wonderful. I would love to do that.
They're also doing Woodstock. My granddaughter is part of that one. I'm going with her.
On Sunday also?
Yes.
Wonderful. See.
Well, they're going to do it Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
So, I'm not sure which one she's going to.
Well, if you guys, can you post it in our group, and that way it's there?
Okay. It's downtown Woodstock.
Yes.
The one I heard about was in Cantrell Park, and I don't know if that's Woodstock or Kennesaw or Marietta. I haven't had a chance to figure out where Cantrell Park is.
No, I don't know. And Mina put on there that, yeah, Obama's write-up, I read that, is local elections is where we have more power right now.
Yeah.
There has to be a bottom-up movement. And, you know, these judges, these police people, these are our neighbors. We've got to get to know who these people are and participate in a loving way with the movement from the bottom up, because we matter, because we're that powerful, because when you go in there with as a presence of love, wanting for you what you want for everybody else, that's what's needed. That's what's needed. These politicians are used to people coming to them wanting favors that benefit one side versus the other, because that's how corruption happens. If we go in there wanting the same for everybody, that's going to make some heads spin, but it is the beginning of the recognition that our voice matters, not from being a victim, but from being an empowered, optimistic being operating at a high frequency that says, hey, we're all one and we all deserve the exact same thing.
You know, Lina, there's an old saying, I don't know who said it first, but all politics is local.
Oh, there you go.
Which means that, you know, the most important thing is what's your local election? What's your Georgia congressperson, your Georgia senator, your, you know, the state court, and then moving on from there, who is your, you know, your U.S. congressperson, who is your U.S. senator, and the last thing is the president.
Perfect.
Yeah, so
Perfect.
You know who you're voting for.
So let me go back to joy, because I want you to understand the importance of joy, especially because our assignment, let me give you the assignment for joy. So this week, notice when you and others are joyful. So that's going to be easy assignment. You or others. So if you're not joyful, find somebody who is. And if you don't find anybody who's joyful, you be joyful so you can have the assignment. So you're going to notice when you and others are joyful, and then recognize recognize that there is gentleness and harmlessness there. Joyful people do not harm, and they are gentle. Pure joy. So let me finish reading this so that you can see that. So in the characteristic of joy. So the open hands of gentleness are always filled. The gentle have no pain. They cannot suffer. Why would they not be joyous? They are sure they are beloved and must be safe. They are beloved of God's. Our safety comes from knowing we are beloved of God's. If we let ourselves trust that there is a benevolent power. Now, so many of us have to work through the teachings of religion when we were younger, and we were taught of a God that is loving and a God that we're supposed to fear. So our mind has to be cleaned up of those misperceptions. We have misinformation in the head, just as we have misinformation about who we are. We don't see ourselves as soul, but that's what we are first and foremost, temporarily in a body. So we got to get straight that God is a loving creator, and that loving creator created loving beings. If we're not being loving, we cannot express our joy. So joy comes from somebody who is not suffering because they know they are safe, because they are the presence of energy, like Peggy's son. He's not afraid because he knows he's eternal energy. Talk about freedom. Talk about pure freedom. So joy goes with gentleness as surely as grief attends attack. So the people who are attacking, the people who are doing not so nice things, they are full of grief. They're operating in those lower frequencies of anger, of hatred. They need compassion. We have to say, just like me, I've been in that place of anger. Brother, sister, I am going to hold a vision of you working through that anger, working your way up the chart so that you can find the light. I hold for you that vision. Guess what that makes you? That makes you a lighthouse, a bringer of love and light. That actually makes you a teacher of God, someone who is teaching that through your peace, you can affect change. But people who are hurting are going to attack. They cannot be gentle, they cannot be joyful. So when you're noticing yourself or others being joyful, I want you to connect really clearly that gentleness and harmlessness goes with joy. So if you're not joyful, you are judgmental. There's no black and white, no gray line there. It's you're joyful because you're safe in the mind of God, or you're judging because you don't trust. And I want you to be honest about that. And the more you can see what happens to your mind when you go to judgment, then look on the emotional scale, what got activated for you, and do what David and I were doing. Work your way through the emotions and you will lighten your energy. That energy needs to move, it needs to express. But if you don't move it through your heart by loving yourself enough to forgive yourself for what you're doing, you cannot transmute that energy. And guess what? If it doesn't go through your heart and express through your throat chakra, you don't create the opening to receive more guidance through your crown chakra. What comes down needs an opening, but the opening is at the heart, not the opening at the root chakra. It's not going to ever get there if you don't open the heart. The heart is the realm of forgiveness. So God's teachers trust in him. This is sentence number 9, still in joy. And they are sure his teacher, this is the Holy Spirit, this is your guide, goes before them, making sure no harm can come to them. No harm here is not of the body. No harm is of the soul. You know, Jesus knew that he was not being harmed even though he was being crucified. There is a knowingness that allows you to move through the world with a certainty that you're not a body. Now, for me, that's something that I am cultivating. I am not at the Jesus level, but I'm not afraid of my body aging or ending or whatever. Whatever comes my way, I know my soul will be well with that because I'm going to receive it. If it's in my experience, I have called it to me. So I don't argue with reality anymore. So whatever is there is for me to experience. My work is to bring love, to work through it with love. So sentence number 11, they hold his gifts and follow in his way because God's voice directs them in all things. Joy is their song of thanks. The highest prayer is for you to be joyful because God just wants to know that you trust. Why? Because those who trust are going to be given the most incredible opportunities to be presences of light, examples of that. And Christ looks down on them in thanks as well. His need of them is just as great as theirs of him. Why does Jesus need us? Well, because Jesus is one being. Yes, he's talking to a lot of people through A Course in Miracles, but each of us get to do greater works than he did because each of us influences our own group. So Jesus for 2,000 years teaching the same thing. Don't get tired if you keep saying the same thing for the next 20, 30, 40 years. Because guess what? You're going to say it again when you come back in the next lifetime. So get used to owning how magnificent you are and choosing to be harmless and to be gentle so that you can experience joy in your heart, so that you can understand what your purpose is. So how joyous it is to share the purpose of salvation. How do you think humanity is going to be saved? Is going to be saved by people who are joyful. And until we become the examples of joy, we're going to have people who are miserable in positions of power, who are going to do not nice things, because every single person who's looking out for themselves are really, truly some of the most disconnected people from their truth, and they're looking to become somebody with power and money. Those are the ones that we should feel our hearts should have compassion for. They think they have power and authority over us, but only if we are afraid. You find your power, you get involved, you value yourself enough, we value ourselves enough to do the work at the local level and have people working for us that we value. But you can't value them till you value you. Until you value you, you fear them. And most of us that fear them, we stay away, we just mind our own business, and no, you take care of whatever. And people with power and money that are unchecked, most of them, not all of them, that's shifting. They will do self-centered things because the ego is about taking care of the self alone. So we didn't get in this mess because we were joyful. We got in this mess because people descended into fear, into hatred, into powerlessness, and began to find their power through control. Well, we've done the same thing. We did it to our kids. We did it to our, friends. We did it at our job. We have taken other people's power, even though we thought, well, I was the parent. I was doing it for their own good. Well, you may be thinking you did it for their own good, but if you were not a conscious parent, you ended up leaving a trail of woundedness that needs to be cleaned up. Like David's parents, I'm sure, loved him and thought that they were doing the right thing, getting him out of unrest in the Congo. But that little child that wants to be free felt oppressed. Well, it's no different than an entire community that is not given the freedom of the same education, is not given the freedom to express themselves and are marginalized. It's the same thing. We have to understand that to not value somebody is the same to the soul. That soul is not free to express itself to its fullest potential. And we really need to get past this idea of different colors, because, some of the most beautiful bouquets, some of the most beautiful gardens have a variety, and we accept variety in nature, but we have been conditioned to separate people by color, by gender, by sexual orientation. That's what we're transcending to move into the fifth dimension, because in the fifth dimension of consciousness, and that's the world that we're headed to in the 30s, we got this decade to clean things up. It's going to be a world of respecting differences, because we recognize what is the same in all of us. The energy of God expressing itself uniquely through different vehicles. It would be very boring if the only color they sold at Sherwin-Williams, if the only paint color was white or black or brown or yellow or red. We have variety for a reason. And those of us who find our voice, who find our connection to God, our job is to ensure that every being can express themselves uniquely as they are, because God is infinite potential. It does not put out cookie cutter people. Humans want to put people into cookie cutter processes But that which was created individual and created to self-express uniquely is going to resist that level of suppression. And those who understand that will have compassion for everybody who wants to just be given permission to experience what God said is their authenticity. So on Saturday, if you guys join me from 10 to 12, we can definitely do some more coaching. But if you guys give me just a few more minutes, I wanted to call you. So we were going to read from the text, but we're not going to have time to read from the text. But I want to read what was in last week's class. Hold on a second, I'm getting an echo here. Let me mute everybody again. So last 2 weeks ago in the class, right before we went in the text, so now we're in chapter 1 in the text, this is page 14 and 15. We were going to start reading in section 7, which is called Distortions of Miracle Impulses. So we'll get to that, but I wanted to end tonight by reading what is at the bottom of page 14, which was the previous section. So perfect love casts out fear. If fear exists, then there is not perfect love. So perfect love is the trust that God is God. It's the total and complete honesty that God is love, that God is there with us, that God is the power, the source. Perfect tolerance, which means you don't judge because you don't know what anything is for. It means gentleness, and it means joy. And joy is thanks that we give for knowing that we are safe with God, that your power comes from God. So what is perfect love? Is what casts out fear. If you operate in perfect love and you're joyful because you trust God and you're cultivating an awareness of the truth of who you are, you're not going to have fear. You cannot have, never do we ever have day and night at the same time. There is one and then the other. You are in love or you are in fear. You are in joy or you are in judgment. You believe that you are eternal and embody your physical vessel with joy, or you believe that you're temporary and you embody your physical vessel with fear. So perfect love is what we're here to learn. What is perfect love? Because it casts out fear. And if fear exists, if there's fear, you are not in perfect love. You didn't understand that perfect love. But only perfect love exists. This is a statement of freedom right here. Only perfect love exists. That's it. It's the only thing that exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist. What does that mean? Fear does not exist. Fear is what happens when you suppress love. So when David was feeling rage, it's not because rage is real. It's because in the moment that he was experiencing rage, let me see, what did he say? He was blocking resilience. He was blocking joy. He was blocking feeling empowered. He was blocking what is true about him. And the hatred is that energy that is seeking expression. But when we project it on somebody else, we do so because we haven't learned to love ourselves enough to not projectile vomit our energy, but to run it through the chakras and express it. Because when you run it through the chakras, you are in through the heart. What you are doing is you're learning how to harness your life force. And once you decide that you want to be at peace, you're not going to be comfortable with discordant energy. Now, it takes a lot of years to practice to hold your peace. Oh, was somebody not? Lorelei, did you find where we were reading? Oh, good. So perfect love casts out all fear. If you practice moving to joy and being gentle and recognizing that you have the choice to be harmless by knowing, I don't know what anything is for. God, you're in charge of this. Something is unfolding. You tell me what to do. Then we become agents for salvation. We become participants in this beautiful journey. So this week, go look for people who are joyful, catch yourself when you're joyful, and make the connection. When you're enjoying life, you are harmless and you are going to be helpful. Make the connection with those two. If you think you can be helpful while you have hatred, it's not going to work. You are going to create more suffering for yourself and others because you're going to come in judgmental. If you come in judgmental, we're going to have more people, more George Floyds or more of Jim's cousins, you know. So we're going to have more people who will have to be crucified for us to decide that instead of needing God to continue, or for us to continue to say, forgive them for they know not what they do. If we begin to know what we're doing, we are not going to need more crucifixions. So at this level of awareness, we need to stop being ignorant of the truth. We need to start practicing the truth, and we need to stop being arrogant and think that, well, somebody else could be this loving, but I can't be that loving because I'm pissed. No, you're loving because God made you loving. And Jim, what did you say? So if it produces a state that does not exist, it is correct to say it is fake because it's not real. Just as it's an illusion. An illusion means that you're giving it power with your mind. Illusion is something that is you can't hold it. So fear, you can't hold it. But love, my gosh, nobody wants to give up love. Love is so delicious. So when you feel the discomfort, work the stuff through your emotions. Actually, on Saturday when we get together, and I'll record that. So for anybody who cannot join us, let's learn to work the emotions. Let's move them up through the levels of consciousness so that you can see a really easy process to let go of what's inside of you. So we will do our reading next week. You know, it's always amazing conversation. So let me unmute everybody. I want to hear from you. What did you guys think? Anybody have any thoughts, ideas? You have to unmute yourselves if you want to speak. Sally, did you get any nuggets from tonight's conversation?
I read in the comments that I feel like all the stuff that's going on with the riots and has so much to do with the coronavirus that it's the first thing that's really happened since then. So it's following that's really big in what's going on in the world. And I'm not in any way trying to minimize what's going on, you know, with the police and the rioting and all of that. But I feel like that everybody has so much energy sort of stuck inside them because of what has gone on in the past few months of being so suppressed that, and I don't know, I have a bunch of different insights, but I'm not sure how they all connect. And I also feel like that this kind of thing, unfortunately, happens all the time. And because of the coronavirus, we're able to see it more clearly because we're paying attention more.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just feels really connected, and I'm not sure of all the ways, but it feels connected.
Well, but no, I think that's a wonderful point. So when we are suppressed, so being in quarantine, in essence, is suppressing freedom-seeking beings. So that energy has been suppressed. It could not express. So anybody who is held down, who is in quarantine, in a jail, parents telling them they can't speak, being put down, you know, at home, whatever it might be, it doesn't matter what it is. So it really does not matter. Whenever we are not fully self-expressed, that energy is going to seek expression one way or another. Because we're not taught that we're energy beings and our work is to consciously harness that energy, because we don't understand how to do that, we don't like it when people vomit their energy all over us, but forgive them, they know not what they do. I didn't know how to manage my energy when I used to throw my tantrums. So we've got to learn how to manage our energy. We are energy beings. How do you manage it? You move it through the layers of the chakras. You move it up until you give it a voice, then you express anything that was suppressed, and then God can fill you with something new. But most of us keep regurgitating the same thing because we don't allow something new. We operate from conditioning. That's why the ego only knows the past. And the past, when it bypasses the heart, it's a copy of the same thing over and over and over again. That's why we have the same problems today that we had a long time ago. You know, it's no different. What is happening to anybody today has been happening for hundreds of years because we are not bringing love to the party. Society needs love more than anything. And who's going to bring love? Those of us who understand how to manage our energies. We work it through the heart. Then we become the change we want to see in the world. Until then, we keep repeating. We keep repeating. Why? Because that's the way we're going to learn. How are we going to know that we are in the darkness if we don't see the darkness? So somebody has to help bring attention to the darkness. So we have souls who have volunteered for some amazing roles, but they're doing it to help us to call our attention to love. And that's why whether it's George or it's Jim's cousin. Jim, what's your cousin's name? Who lost his life? Let's unmute you.
Pat.
Pat? Okay, so whether it's George or Pat, any being who loses their life at the hands of somebody else is helping to, it's a call for love. That's all that it is. It's a call for love. So the best thing that we can do is recognize our oneness and become the agents of love so that we begin to remove the need for repetition. We're going to get to the fifth dimension. There's going to be no murders. There's going to be no rapes. There's going to be no stealing. Once we get to the place that we honor each other and we operate transparently, those things are going to go away, but they're not going to go away until we highlight them. So the lights are very intense right now on the decade 2020. 2020, what a powerful thing is for us to be able to see clearly. So everything that is dark now has a spotlight on it. We want that because that is going to help us see what needs to be shifted. How do you shift it? With love, because only love is real. You all are so awesome. Daisy, I want to hear from you. You've been quiet. Any nuggets from tonight? After Daisy, I'll touch base with Kathy.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I was just absorbing it all tonight. I was just really kind of getting some insight into all of what everybody was saying. So yeah, it's good.
Very cool. Thank you. And you, Miss Kathy. She's still at the waterfall.
Mute, sorry.
There we go.
There we go. No, I'm glad we had the conversation because it's a lot to process.
It is.
And it's also, it's almost like living in two different spaces also, when it almost feels guilty to conduct business as usual or to not address it in some way. But by addressing it, it feels like adding fuel to the fire. I like when Kat said before, you know, she's just sending peace and love, and like, I like that kind of participation rather than engaging on social media about it. That doesn't feel right to me, but I also somewhat feel not guilty, but like I should be addressing it.
Well, if you feel like you should be doing more, go to the Holy Spirit and ask, what should you do? Don't try to figure it out on your own. Because that is we've been given that source so that we don't feel guilt, because you're not supposed to feel guilt.
Right. Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah. So if you're feeling guilt, it's because you're trying to solve a problem with your own mind.
Exactly.
So go to God. God, what would you have me do? But we need prayer warriors, but we also need boots on the ground. We need people who get educated in the you know, who's running for office. We've got elections coming up. We find out, you know, it really is amazing, all of the positions that happen on a local basis. I mean, frankly, I don't know why we're not more involved finding out who's being hired at the police department. I mean, maybe we need to form citizens oversight committees. That's something that we should be looking at. These people, we hire them and then we turn our backs on them and say, you do whatever you want, and then we don't like what they do when we let them do whatever they want. So ask God, what would you have me do? You know, that might be cool. We can give all these departments their own board of directors, and it's us.
Right. Yeah. Well,
it works for companies.
Exactly. Yeah. So
we're all going to be inspired with our roles. Everybody's going to feel it. So yes, love over fear for sure. Joy over judgment for sure. And when you're not sure what to do, Holy Spirit, what will you have me do?
Right. Yep. Yes.
You know,
thank you.
I did that, Lana, and I felt really weird, but I did it anyway because I felt like the Holy Spirit told me that was the thing I needed to do. The police officer that put his knee on his neck, I actually went into prayer for him and with him.
Oh,
beautiful.
Because I felt there's no one that could not have a heart unless there was a need for prayer.
Yeah.
I needed to touch his soul instead of looking at him as an evil being. And that was very difficult for me. But I obeyed what the Holy Spirit told me to do.
It's so powerful.
Exactly. But Peggy, let's put things in perspective. That was only difficult for your ego, who didn't want to give up judgment and righteousness.
I know.
But for your soul, it's easy. Because it's what our souls is made of. Our souls want to extend love. Our ego is the ideas in our mind that blocks the love. So in all honesty here, everybody, doesn't it feel better to flow love? Isn't that more delicious?
Yes, beautiful.
Yeah, of course.
So then
I know.
why do we not extend love?
Exactly.
Because we become righteous, and righteous feels better than being wrong. And yes, so we've got to move out of the right and wrong and just begin to let love have its way with us, because all it's going to do is have compassion and flow. So we got to train our minds to stop letting it be difficult to say no to our ego. So thank you, Peggy, for saying no to that ego mind. because the ego wants to judge other people to take the attention off of the fact that we in that moment are now being the presence of love. It just projects it out there. I was thinking of calling Unity. Maybe I could like do a projection class. You know, they've got some different people. Maybe they're doing different things and offer let's just talk about projections. Maybe it fits into that schedule. I'll reach out tomorrow, because you know that's something that most people do not understand.
Well, I can help you with that.
Oh,
cool. Being the program committee chair and being on the board, I kind of have some say so.
Well, I would love to do like the power of projection. Like a basic projections 101.
Right.
Because it's a tough thing to see when we're angry. When we're angry, we lose all objectivity, and God cannot use us when we're blocked.
Well, and projection is a big one anyway, but given what's going on now, it's just like magnified. So I think that timing would be perfect.
Mm.
Okay. All right. Well, David, I'll reach out to you in the next couple of days.
Sure.
David, I am so happy that you are in the board now. I bless you, because you can see, like the projections in there, and they are going to help you a lot. So be ready and put your heart there, your love, because we need a lot positive energy there.
Thank you, Vilma. Thank
love
you, Vilma. I must tell you all that I'm really called to go to Washington, D.C. this weekend.
That's exciting.
And just to be there, to be a source of positive energy, to just to support people that are there for whatever reason, but recognizing that there is a call for change. There's a call for connection. There's a call for us all to come together. And I would love to just be there to hold the energy. So if any of y'all would like to go with me, we can fly, we can.
Okay, I can go with you, David.
Let me know, we'll go.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's a great thing.
Road trip. Oh, that'd be fun. That'd be fun. I got too many other things I'm doing here. I'm not feeling called to go there, but
okay, all right.
That is beautiful. Thank you for answering the call.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Lina, it's your full moon weekend.
Oh, it is? What does that mean?
Well, it's the full moon in Sagittarius, and one of the 5 planets that you have in Sagittarius is the moon. So it's your, like, I don't know, big stuff could happen. You could, I don't know, insights, who knows, Lord knows where you'll go and what. Nothing would surprise me.
Oh, fun. Well, in 31 days, yes, I'm counting. Krista will be here.
I wondered about that.
So in 31 days, you're not going to hear from me.
I wondered about that too. I said, I bet she's going to tell us how many days she's going to be off the grid.
It won't
no class that Monday.
Yeah, do it on a Monday. There you go.
No, he comes on Thursday, so we have 4 days. Don't worry. But tomorrow, I'm going to put out a newsletter that I would love to get feedback from you guys. And the title of it is Racism is Not Real. Wow. It is the program of divisiveness. So it's we've got to understand that racism, nobody is born a racist. That is programmed into us to divide us. We're more controllable when we're divided and subdivided, and think about it. We're separate from God. We're told we're separate from God when we're little. That's the first, but then we're separated into male and female. And then of course, society has taught us one is more powerful than the other. We're separated by color. We're separated by sexual orientation. We're separated by religion, by money. We have bought into we've let our minds be put into so many, we've been divided into such small little pieces instead of being a whole being that has male and female energy and expresses as a male or expresses as a female. and let the rest just be things that we enjoy or things we want to do, but not something that society agrees upon. That
Laina,
is what we're waking up from. Yes, Miss Vilma.
Laina, we create too many cells to protect us as a human, and that is the big problem we have.
Yeah, because we don't realize how powerful we are. We're using our power. We're using our power to hurt ourselves, harm ourselves, and now we're transmuting that. We're going to use our power to heal ourselves and then to express ourselves.
Well, be prepared. Interesting you're doing this as we're coming up on your full moon and you're going to take such a stand, which I think is fabulous. Be prepared for lots of expansion. You may get lots of response from this, like you're going to be shining under a bright light of your own full moon, if that makes any sense. Well, no, I mean, you're the one that decided to do it timing-wise. I think it's terrific.
Okay.
Oh, no, I think it's perfect. But just be prepared that you're going to be probably very busy or taking, you know, communication around whatever it is you're going to write.
Yes, I'm ready. Let's communicate. This is a topic that I really, and you know, let me ask you all, please. I feel that we bring a level of consciousness to unity that in many ways, as I watch some of the messages and things, there's a lot of fear inside of our spiritual community.
Absolutely.
So I am going to ask us to, as we communicate inside of that, you know, within that community, as we prepare for reentry, you know, in July, hold your knowingness that if you become an example of somebody who lives in trust, you will be a beacon of light that is going to become attractive. People who are hurting, they really want, they need some examples. If you don't plug into their misery, you will not give them the company that will feed their ego. If you stand grounded in your power, they will rise. They will rise. We really need to sprinkle the world with examples. What David's going to do in Washington is stand as grounded in his truth. Let's do that inside of our community. This is a time where we're going to see people who talk the talk and people who walk the talk. So I feel that we can bring something beautiful just by being grounded. Send that love fearlessly.
Laina, can I say something?
Sure.
This is very good that you bring that, because I wanted to invite to all of you, if you wanted, because the Wholeness Ministry, we are going to do our service this Wednesday, June the 3rd, and Richard is going to open Unity, and we are going to keep the distance, the social distance, and I am going to be there because we already talked to him and everything, and he wanted to do, because before he was thinking that we are going to cancel. Remember, we do this service for the whole year, and this is the second. So if you like, I will be there. I love to do that, and the whole ministry is going to do the service, and Michael Burke is going to participate, Reverend Richard, and Cecilia with the meditation and prayer. And Unity is going to be open, and we need to follow the protocol from the distance. So I think it's going to be beautiful. I wanted to let you know.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'll be teaching a class, so I won't be able to be there, but I love that they're opening up for that. Oh, thank goodness.
Yes, Laina, that is amazing. A lot of things coming up, like you say, and I agree what you say. This the community are, because they are a little afraid, and a lot of people live alone. So the other thing I am doing right now is calling some of them. Richard gave us maybe 10 or 5 people with the numbers, to call them every 1 day or 2 days, to talk to them, to pray with them.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Tell that we are with them. But they are a lot fear, that you say, and a lot, you know, controversial in between them.
Yeah, and they cannot maybe necessarily hear the Course in Miracles information, but they know the 5 unity principles, and those unity principles are powerful, like we talked about.
Exactly. Yes, Laina. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Yes, I miss that environment. It's going to be fun to go back.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wonder if we're going to walk in, it's going to be full of cobwebs.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to be, but it's going to be beautiful, I think. So if every somebody you like to be, because this is a great opportunity, you know, for this healing.
Yeah.
This is a powerful. Oh my, this is amazing. It's so beautiful.
Bring some good juju in there. Lorelai, you were going to say something.
What I wanted to say was the chairs are now 6 feet apart because I was there doing the chaplain thing on Sunday. And I like the way it feels. That doesn't really bother me at all. It's kind of cool having space, but still being connected. So, you know, I think Richard is straddling that line absolutely beautifully of being sensitive to people who are afraid and still standing for what he believes is true. And I mean, and the whole drive-through church thing that we're doing tomorrow night, that's where I'm going to be. You know, drive-through prayer, drive-in prayer. Somebody can come in their car and somebody can pray with them. They, you know, they want to keep the distance. I mean, I've been hugging people all over the place, so I don't really care anymore.
Yeah.
But again, I think we're doing everything that we can, and I think there's tremendous creativity being demonstrated. And I love your idea about holding the high watch. I mean, it's all about what's that word? Entrainment, right?
Yeah. Entrainment, exactly. And you hold your frequency and they will train themselves up to that frequency.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It really is beautiful when you see somebody who is grounded and you're really afraid. They feel really good to you.
Yeah.
Feels like solid, somebody solid. Oh, you guys are so awesome. I love you all so much. I cannot wait to see you all and hug you.
Oh, yes, please.
I'm hugging a few of you, but I want to hug all of you.
We miss you too.
I cannot wait for our first in person. When is Unity open officially?
July the 1st. July the 1st.
Wednesday night. Yeah, Wednesday night. Yeah. So I really encourage y'all to check into Richard's message on Sunday because he really hits head on into what our country is really evaluating right now as far as a separation of the haves and the have-nots. You know, and so Richard's done a great job of trying to balance unity principles with you know, with what some people may believe or as something that it is not supporting me. You know, I just would just say, come Sunday, really enjoy, you know, because he is really stretching, and our board is really trying to support him and trying to stretch and to really recognize the value in each person.
Yeah. Yes, we have to definitely recognize the value in each person, while at the same time we hold firm to what we know is truth. So that is a straddling. That is a paradox where you know your truth for you, but you can still be compassionate, recognizing and meeting people where they are. You know, we're here for a reason. And actually, I was gonna just read the titles of the lessons of the last couple of days since the review. These are powerful lessons.
Really?
151, all things are echoes of the voice of God. That means God is speaking to us everywhere, either as a call for love or as an expression of love. 152 is the power of decision is my own. Nobody is deciding for you. If you are not expressing love, you're deciding to be expressing fear. If you're not extending joy, you're deciding to be judgmental. And then 153, which was today's, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. Stop defending yourself and you'll really see how powerful you are. I love you all.
I just love that one so much.
Thank you all so much. This is just so
Thank you, Lina. That was so beautiful.
Bye,
A great lesson today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Love you guys.
Bye, Kathy.
Thanks so much.
My sweetheart. Love you guys.
Love you, everybody.
David sent our love to Washington.
Yeah, come with me. Come with me. Come with me.
Lina, you mentioned that 153 was today's, but for some reason it's up to 152.
So 153. I posted that one in a different way. I couldn't upload it. It's such a big file. So that one is posted as a, it might say YouTube video. So do you know how to search in the group?
Yeah.
Put less than 153 and they'll come up, but it doesn't have a picture of the video because it didn't upload that way.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, try it that way.
All right, thanks.
See you all next time, Saturday.
All right, bye.
Yes.
I like the way you decorated your office there, Jim, for us to see little, I noticed it. That's cute.
I had to throw something up besides those terrible shelves.
It looks good. Good stuff. Yeah. Stacy, how are your boys doing? I mean, your boys are kids. You have a boy and a girl.
Oh, they're good. Katie, she created